Welcome back to another episode of Dentside Depot. In today's episode, we are going to go over the 10 most bizarre decisions that Ford made with their 6th generation F-Series, that is 73 through 79. We're going to discuss all the strangest decisions that they made on all truck cab sizes, all options, and everything else. Just the bizarre decisions of what they did or didn't do on these trucks. So sit back and relax. Let's see what the most strangest things are that Ford did. To start us off today, I want to talk about probably Ford's most bizarre decision that they made, and really it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and that is that they did not include or allow for a 460 engine in the F-250 and F-350 four-wheel drive trucks. It makes absolutely no sense at all. We have the 460 right here, but the biggest engine that you could get from the factory in one of these trucks was the Ford 400, which you can see right here. Now, this decision is so bizarre because really the 460 engine essentially just bolts right in. It's the same exact bell pattern, and the only difference is the exhaust manifolds or headers would have been different and the engine mounts would have been different. It really doesn't make any sense at all because it wouldn't have added any significant weight to the truck, and really when you think about it, the truck would have been more than capable of handling factory form additional horsepower and torque that you would get from the 460. So that's definitely a bizarre decision by Ford for 6th gen trucks. One of the rarest options in 6th gen trucks was the Vanity Flipper visor mirror that you could get on these trucks. Now, the way this worked was Ford manufactured a larger, thicker plastic visor compared to what would come on 99.9% of all of the other trucks. But what makes this bizarre is Ford went through all the trouble of doing this, but they only included the vanity visor on the passenger side. Now, you could say, well, they didn't want to manufacture more or whatever it may be, but they took these mirrors from the Lincoln Continental Mark vehicles, and the mirror itself came out of those cars, and in those Lincolns, they were on both the driver and the passenger side, and the driver side often had a garage door opener in it. So if Ford went through the trouble of doing the vanity visor, why didn't they do it for both sides? It really doesn't make any sense at all. Our next mystery is truly a strange and bizarre one that really no one knows the answer to. In 1976, Ford released a specific variant of the F100/F150 that was called an F130. Now, you know you have an F130 truck by the door tag saying F13. Now, the F13 truck or F130 was significantly different than its F100 and F150 counterparts. In 1976, it was the only half-ton truck to ever come with an 8-lug front suspension along with an 8-lug Dana 60 rear axle. Now, why did Ford produce an F130 truck with 8 lugs for just one single year? People say that they were doing it to potentially get by emission standards or some sort of standard to get the truck through less expensive or whatever it may be. I honestly don't know. It made no sense why Ford did this only for 1976. Very few of these trucks got the 8-lug setup, and then they were gone by 1977 in a truly bizarre 6th gen Ford truck mystery. Our next mystery is one that still baffles me to this day, and it is these bars that went in the front fenders of only a few late model 6th gen trucks. Now, what happened was these bars would mount inside of the fender like so, essentially looking just like that inside of the fender. But if you take apart these trucks, you will almost never ever find these bars inside of these fenders. It really doesn't make any sense at all that only a few of these trucks ever got these bars. Now, I have heard people say that this was something that only came in Canadian trucks or forest preserve trucks or something along those lines, but these bars are so incredibly impossibly hard to find, and I don't even know how many trucks they came in, but it really makes no sense that they only put them in a few and none of the other trucks got them. Another bizarre mystery. Two of the very best functional options that Ford offered on the 6th gen trucks was the camper special and the trailer special option. Both of these options perform different tasks. The camper special option would allow you to have a camper shell and have power to it, and I will show you that here in a second. The trailer special option added an additional harness so you could hook a trailer up. But the bizarre thing is you could not order both options on the same truck. If you see that option on these options on the same truck, then someone has added them like I have to this truck right here. One of these is for camper special, one of them is for trailer special. That is the trailer special relay, and when you see a dual battery, it often indicates that the truck has camper special, but not absolutely, as they were technically separate options. Going to the back of the truck, you know you have a camper special truck when you look up underneath the bed and you see this junction harness right here. For the trailer special, you would have an additional harness that would plug in the back, as so that would allow you to easily plug in your trailer. Now here's what makes this so bizarre. If you're gonna have a camper shell, you're probably also gonna be towing a boat or maybe some other little U-Haul trailer or something like that. So why did Ford not offer camper special and trailer special on the same truck from the factory? A truly bizarre outcome. Our next mystery involves an interior option known as bucket seats. Now, these particular bucket seats could be found on Broncos from 1978 all the way up through the late 80s in this particular style. It is unknown why Ford never offered the bucket seats inside of the full-size trucks. The interesting thing is the floor between the Bronco and the full-size pickup truck is so similar that all you need to do is put a little bit of washers or a bracket of some kind on one side for the driver's seat and only one position on the passenger seat, and they literally bolt right in. This would have been an absolutely awesome option on the full-size pickup trucks, but for some reason Ford never offered it. All of the 6th gen trucks were offered with a dual tank option. You would have a 19-gallon fuel tank in the back, and then roughly the same for your midship tank or your forward tank in the middle of the truck. But here's the bizarre thing. Look at all the space that is still available right here for a larger tank. Now look at this tank right here. It is actually a 78-79 33-gallon Bronco tank. Although these tanks are slightly skinnier, they would essentially have bolted right in, or Ford could have even made a tank that would fit right into the truck factory locations. Why did Ford never just make a 33-gallon tank for the full-size trucks? Even if they also offered the dual tank option to have 33 gallons in the back and roughly 20 gallons in the midship tank, would have been absolutely awesome, especially considering these trucks only got about 10 miles to the gallon. It really doesn't make any sense because Ford offered so many different variations of these tanks that simply just saying, well, they didn't want to make another tank doesn't make any sense. In addition, starting in 1980, Ford would actually offer the larger tank on their full-size trucks. Another bizarre mystery. Starting in 1978 through 1979 on the 6th gen trucks, the very best front axle that you could get would be the Dana 60 Kingpin front. Now these front axles were available both on regular cab trucks and also on the super cab trucks from the factory, either from an F350 in 79 only or as the Snowfighter option in 78 and 79 on an F250. What they were not available on was a 4x4 crew cab. The crew cabs could only have a Dana 44 front axle. If you don't believe me, well, let's look at the manual right here. And you can see where it says front axle 4,500 pound, regular and super cab only. Now, the only thing I can think of as to why they were not offered with the Dana 60 front axle is because the gross vehicle weight rating would have been too high for what the crew cab frames could handle. If you look closely at a crew cab frame, they are much skinnier compared to a super cab, so it might have just been too much for these trucks to handle overall. But regardless, no Dana 60 front axle in a crew cab is definitely a mystery, especially considering they would have just bolted right in. Here's a bonus crew cab mystery that most people don't actually know, and that is that the crew cabs were only built in Ontario and they were never offered with cruise control from the factory. If you have cruise control in a crew cab truck, it is because one of two things have occurred. Either it has a dealer installed cruise control, which is definitely very possible, or someone has taken a factory cruise control out of another truck and transferred it into a crew cab truck. Now, if you don't believe me, look at this right here. Speed control not available with crew cab or sport steering wheel. Oftentimes, people will wrongfully brag that they had a special ordered truck from the factory that had a 429 or a diesel engine or some sort of other thing that just simply is not true and not the case. But if you hear someone say that their truck was factory ordered with a special color that no one else has, there is actually a chance that they are telling you the truth. Check out this Marty report right here on this X28 chassis and cab F250 with a Snowfighter front. Here it says special paint, Ford number unknown. So if you see someone say that they have a special ordered color, well, say, show me the Marty report, they might actually be telling you the truth. And for our final mystery today, why did Ford never put a tape player in the trucks? And honestly, why did they never put a 4-channel stereo in the trucks, especially the super cabs and the crew cabs? And to help us out with this today, I have my resident Dentside expert, Steve, back on the channel to help us out. So Steve, explain to us why the Lincoln tape player and the 4-channel, well, why the tape player doesn't fit, and then we'll talk about why Ford never put the 4-channel in.
Okay, so these are some of your options here. This was the AM/FM radio that a lot of people, or an AM radio that a lot of people had. This was the AM/FM, and it almost looks exactly like the AM/FM stereo. So basically the size was one of the conditions here, the reason why they wouldn't fit. So, but you did have a 4-channel which came in a Mustang or a Cougar, which would have fit. It basically looks like it would fit in there. However, one of the main problems are the knobs are different. So the knob spacing here is different than the factory ones here. Okay, for the regular Ford truck. I don't know why they would make a radio that looks exactly the same, however, but it just doesn't fit because of the knob situation. Now, not only that, if you wanted to put an 8-track or a tape deck in there, one of the problems is this is just flat out too big of a radio. As you can see the difference in size. So you could modify it to get it to fit, however, you'd still have the knob issue. This would be your normal Ford setup. The radio would go into here, and you see how this is flush mounted.
Yep.
And when you put on the bezel, everything goes right onto it flush.
Yeah.
Now this is the one what came with, if it was in a Cougar or Mustang, you see how it's recessed back, and one's even recessed further back.
Right.
And that's where you'd run into the problem when you put the 4-channel radio in there. The knob distance is longer. So you have to be able to work the fader, and that's what that does. It allows you to work the fader.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. So why they did that, I have no idea. Why wouldn't you just make a uniform radio for all the vehicles?
From a mass production standpoint, it would make sense just to have 1 or 2 radios rather than different radios for every single vehicle application. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, Steve, for that outstanding explanation for our last mystery that we had today. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Dentside Depot. I hope you enjoyed diving into the many mysteries of these trucks. If you have some that I didn't mention in this video that you'd like to add, feel free to go ahead and do so in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you in the next episode.